Sorry, one more, Brian. I finally tried the chicken tenders on the pool deck.
Life-changing?
Life-changing chicken tenders.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel. And we're skipping reviews this week. This is our revisiting of the Treasure trip report from our April spring break cruise. And we've got some fun audio with some guests we sailed with on board. We'll talk a little bit more about later. But Sam, I'm excited to talk about heading back to the Treasure 4 months after the Maiden.
Yeah, I was so excited to be able to get back on the Treasure. Obviously, we've told people that the Treasure has become our favorite ship. I don't think that's changed since this new sailing, but it was great to revisit her, to see how the new cast was doing on board the ship, to see how the activities had sort of changed over time, and to explore some things that we might have missed on the maiden voyage.
Yeah. It was I'd say headline here is overall, it was a really fun trip. It was a different trip for us than recently, because most of the trips we've taken of late, we've sailed with kind of the same set of people over and over again. And so we had a new set of people on board, some first timers on the Treasure. And so that was exciting. So big shout out to Ashley Norton and the whole crew there from Charlotte that were on board with her. And of course, to the Krauses of Kraus Mouse Adventures who sailed with us and who we dined with just about every evening. And so it was a really fun group of folks to be on board with. And I'm excited to just sort of dive in. We're going to do this kind of in an abbreviated fashion because we've already done kind of our review of the Treasure. So this is really just sort of walking through some different things that we did and some new observations we had from our experience on board. We did, as per our strong recommendation to anyone out there, fly in the day before. And I will say it was a new experience for Sam because we stayed at the Grand Floridian the night before using our DVC points. And Sam, I think you enjoyed the Grand Flow overall. We even tried a new restaurant, right? Narcoossee's?
Yes. Oh my God. I really liked the Grand Flow, but I even more liked Narcoossee's. I thought the food was fantastic. We had a really good server, and we got to watch fireworks right from our seats as we were dining. It was awesome.
Yeah, and big shout out to our friends Will and Rebecca who had dinner with us that night. It was a really fun dinner. Had a good time. So we did head to the port the next morning. I'll say we got a later start than I normally would, but we got to the port probably closer to 11 o'clock. Maybe actually, I think it was bang on 10:30 that we got to the port, which I wanted to sort of reinforce. I've seen some questions coming up in groups and elsewhere about like how early you can arrive to the port and park. I think you can arrive fairly early if you're being dropped off. You don't want to arrive too early, or else you'll just be in the crush of people still getting off the ship. And certainly they're not going to let you into the port until closer to 11 o'clock, maybe 10:45. But in terms of parking, if you're driving your own car, I just want to highlight that Disney has really started to, or I should say the local port, it's not Disney. The port has really started reinforcing the 10:30 opening time for parking. So if you're driving your own vehicle to the port, we've had more than one experience now where we've gotten there ahead of 10:30, and sometimes the garage would open at 10:15, sometimes maybe 10:05, who knows, right? Now they're really making cars spin around until exactly 10:30. And so I'd say if you're driving yourself, just plan to get there around 10:30 or just slightly after, and then you'll have no problem getting parked in the garage ahead of your cruise. We showed up, offloaded our luggage. There was nobody there, by the way. Like 10:30 in the morning, like the whole luggage drop-off lane was practically empty, I think.
Well, and by the time we were all at the doors to get in, and they had been letting in people, I think, for like 15 or 20 minutes. And so we were able to walk right in. In fact, there were people who had later boarding times than us who were already like heading into the port. So it was smooth sailing as far as check-in, which is interesting because they were definitely at like full capacity. And the number of people on our cruise, it was like 20 below the maximum capacity for our ship. So we were a full ship. It was a spring break sailing, but everything was really smooth with check-in. Of course, as is the norm these days, no port upgrades available on this sailing.
Yeah, well, or at least they said that. But
yeah,
yes, I buy it this time around because the ship was full for sure.
Yes.
I wanted to take a minute. So we got into the terminal, we got on board the ship, all that fun stuff, and everything ran fairly smoothly. I think one interesting thing that happened at the terminal, we were not given a boarding card. So they hand out boarding cards for boarding group 1. We were boarding group 2. As they started to announce someone was coming through and saying, "Do you have your boarding cards? Do you have your boarding cards?" And I said, "Well, we don't have our boarding card." And she said, "Oh, that's okay because you're not in group 1." Okay, that's cool. And we'll let group 1 board, and then we'll board as group 2. We're Pearl, obviously, so we're automatically kind of in group 2. But then, as they started to call boarding group 1, they started saying, "Pearls, where are you? Pearl."
Yeah, they
cruisers."
skipped one. They actually went to Pearl first. And so after concierge and of course the family of the day, and any back-to-back cruisers, we boarded as the next group. And we weren't at the very front of the Pearl group, but they
We were
ended
pretty
up
close to it. Sam.
I know. I mean, they essentially boarded boarding group 2 before they boarded boarding group 1, because I think pretty much everyone that's assigned boarding group
Platinum.
2 is Pearl.
No, I think Platinum also gets in boarding group 2 because they don't have to select a port arrival time and all that.
No, they get. I've seen in the groups other people who are Platinum getting boarding group 3 or 4. I mean, I think occasionally they can get 2.
I think more people than just Pearl are in boarding group 2, because it did not look like a full boarding group 2 when we were heading into the arch. But anyway, I will say I don't know that is actually a Disney change or something that Disney's doing so much as it sounded like the cast member who was there. I overheard her say to another cast member, because someone was questioning, like, well, they don't have boarding group 1 cards. And she's like, they're Pearl. They should get to board first. And I thought, you're not wrong. It is rewarding your most loyal cruisers to let them get on first. And it immediately struck me, that's exactly what airlines do, after disability boarding and maybe recognition of on-duty service members and that kind of stuff. They board first class, who's paid the most to be there,
right?
Which is like concierge, which is what they do. And then they board, their
loyalty
highest tier, their highest tier loyalty status. And so, Disney, if you're out there listening, I think it's a great thing to reward your most loyal cruisers with a little early boarding. So anyway, all right. So after we got on the ship, I wanted to comment briefly that, look, we were not sailing concierge this time, and we haven't sailed concierge for a little bit. I'm telling you, I don't know, Sam, how you feel. I'm not missing it. I'm not missing it that much.
So I'm missing it in the sense of, well, one, I love those tea sandwiches, but I did get some of those tea sandwiches at the princess tea thing, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I will say, we did get a little special pixie dust from one of the concierge hosts. I gotta give a shout out to Christina, who, when I found out she was on board, I messaged her through Facebook, and she asked me, like, the day before we boarded, like, hey, is there anything that you need? And I was like, oh, actually, we've got everything we wanted. But I was going to ask on board if the private room is available for Apollo brunch on day, I think it was day 6. And she actually was able to book that for me. And even though we weren't sailing concierge, she just did that as like a favor to us. And I mean, those are the kinds of things that you get if you're staying in concierge. They'll do that stuff for you all day long. But like, obviously, because I have a relationship with her, she offered to do that for us. So I just would say, like, I miss some of those personal touches you get in concierge without sort of knowing anybody ahead of time.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I look at it from the standpoint of, we've mostly been able to book what we wanted.
Yes,
we got
true.
Prima Notte, we got our Palo brunch, we got our Palo dinner.
Yes.
As
like, Pearl, we've been very successful.
And I don't miss the lounge. I got a rainforest room pass this time, which basically is a proxy for me for the lounge. I really use the lounge as a place to get like a quiet retreat someplace for just like read or, relax or work on a puzzle. I do wish, again, Disney, if you're listening, I do wish there was a way for you to get, a drink in the rainforest room. Now, I recognize that opens up its own problems because you don't want people over consuming in a spa space and making the spa space not welcoming. So, I get why it's not there, and I'm fine with that. But I thought it was, I think the rainforest room is a good proxy for me for the lounge, and it only costs, a few $100s for that as opposed to several $1,000s for the upgrade to concierge. I do miss some of the personal touches, but, overall, I think I haven't really missed not being concierge. The only other thing I sometimes miss is like on longer sailings, I love that larger 1-bedroom that we could get. But frankly, we just weren't in the room a lot, and there were plenty of spaces. On the Treasure specifically, what I love is there are lots of spaces where you can go find quiet retreat. So used Periscope Pub to play some Lorcana with the friends on board, sat in, the atrium on decks 4 and 5. They have some really nice seating areas because they don't have the desks there for future cruises and IT and that kind of stuff. And so I think that the spaces on board the Treasure really lend themselves to, like, I didn't need a separate lounge space. Anyway, I just want to comment. haven't been missing it that much as I thought I might.
Yeah. I would say, we always tell people, like, if you do want a cabana, that's the situation where you have to really be sailing concierge. Not to say that you can't randomly get one if you're not sailing concierge, but reliably speaking, it's very, very difficult to get a cabana if you're not sailing concierge these days.
I gotta say, I don't really miss cabana, although spoiler alert, we didn't get off the ship for Castaway. But not because someone messaged us at one point and said, like, what is Castaway the new Nassau for you? And I said, no, it's just the past couple times we visited, the weather, frankly, at Castaway has not been
the water's
terrific.
Freezing. Yeah.
Water's been cold, it's been windy. The temperatures have, only been in like the low to mid 70s, which for us, it feels too cold to swim. Like I want it to be in the 80s to mid 80s, and the water temperature maybe just a little warmer. And I don't want all the wind.
And our parasailing excursion was canceled, and Moana was playing. That was on day 6, and Moana was playing at, I think, 3 p.m. And so it was like, okay, well, let's plan on, since our parasailing was canceled and that would have conflicted with Moana, it made sense for us to like go see Moana in the afternoon, because of course Castaway Day is packing day. And so when you're packing to leave, it's just easier if you can get that done and not worry about going to like the 6 p.m. show.
Yeah.
So
anyway, let's get back in order here. Let's talk about day 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we weren't sailing concierge, our rooms weren't ready until 1:30. We got on board, and I think we just headed to sit
at Skipper.
Oh yeah, sorry. We sat at Skipper Society for a while. It was completely empty. We just sat there. We had a coffee, I think, and maybe a drink. Met up with our friends as they came on board, and then around 1:15, we headed up and waited for 15 minutes. Also, want to give a shout out to Amy, who why am I blanking on Amy's last name?
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams, yeah, who actually works at the same company I do and was a former Plan Disney panelist. We got to meet her family and interact with her a bit on board, and she's just such a fabulous and wonderful person.
And she wasn't even an admin in our Facebook group for this cruise, but she like constantly was helping answering questions like with accurate information. Like that's what those Plan Disney panelists and former Plan Disney panelists are so awesome, because they're such a wealth of knowledge, and they actually know, like, if they don't know the answer, they know where to look.
Once Plan Disney, always Plan
Disney.
Disney.
Absolutely. She was awesome. Yeah, we weren't actually hungry for lunch. We had eaten breakfast on the way to the port, and so we all just kind of skipped lunch. We went to the room. When we got our luggage, we unpacked. I went to the, sail away party, because I always feel like it's something, to do and to sort of kick off your cruise. I also wanted to check out the new Sage and Coriander, who sort of kick off the sail away party typically on the Treasure. And then, of course, that night we had Prima Notte and we had dinner at Coco. I just want to give one piece of information that's currently on the Treasure, and I'm not sure it's going to change soon, but Sage and Coriander. Sage is the female, Coriander is the male. They are the storytellers on the Treasure. We heard that a week or two before our sailing, the female character, Sage, the actress, had some kind of injury and had to leave the ship. And so they didn't have a permanent Sage on the ship. So Coriander kicked off the sail away party himself. And then all of the shows that Sage and Coriander do, the Jungle Cruise, the Indiana Jones, the Adventure Tea with Royalty, like all of those things, Coriander did with a different partner, meaning like a different person filled in for Sage in those different, and they actually gave them different names. Like one of them was Juniper. I can't remember what the other ones were, but like, so they were different entertainment cast or main stage cast members depending upon the show. But it did mean that the Aladdin retelling, the stories from the lamp that they do in the Grand Hall, that did not happen on our sailing. I will say all of the fill-ins were really, really fantastic, particularly for the Indiana Jones Choose Wisely show. I know Brian had to miss that show because it conflicted with one of his spa appointments, but it was really, really good. It was actually the actress who played Belle in Beauty and the Beast did Indiana Jones Choose Wisely with Coriander. I don't know her name, but she was fabulous.
Yeah, but it did mean, because a lot of people have asked us like what Sage and Coriander were like. So why don't we pause here for a second and say, like, do you think that they were on par with the original Sage and Coriander? And also this little snafu, I think, meant that there were some things that Sage and Coriander would do, like
just the Aladdin. The only thing that was missing.
Well, they also had a Tangled retelling on one of the sailings.
That's true. We never saw that. That wasn't up and running on the Maiden. But you're right. I think right before we were on, before the changeover happened, I think they were doing a Tangled retelling as well. But do I think that they were equal to? This is really hard. I think they're like. It really depended on the cast member, right? So I would say Indiana Jones Choose Wisely was phenomenal. So was that as good? Yes. But I will say that like the prior Sage and Coriander had this amazing chemistry with one another that could not be matched in these, because Sage and Coriander it was a different like person doing the role of Sage and all these different activities. So I would say, were they as good as on the Maiden? No, but were they really phenomenal to watch and really entertaining? And would I, if I didn't have anything to compare to, would I say, oh, these were amazing? Yes, I would. So like for people who weren't on for the first, couple months of sailing, you're not going to notice anything different. You're going to have a fabulous Sage and Coriander experience. And hopefully the new Sage is coming on soon. That's what I've heard. But I don't know, exact timing. And so obviously until that time, there'll be sort of this fill-in situation.
One other comment I wanted to give going back to the day one boarding, I was talking about how our rooms were ready at 1:30. They were ready at 1:30. What I've been impressed by of late is that on the Maiden, on the Fantasy, and then on this recent cruise of the Treasure, like luggage is showing up like fast. Like when they dropped the rope, let me say we were deck 9 forward is where we were staying and on Ocean View. When we were walking down the hall to go to our room, I was like, well, there's our bag, there's our bag, there's our bag. Like all of our bags. Yeah. In fact, we just grabbed the bags ourselves and rolled them down to the room. So I don't know if the change in the luggage tag is really making them more efficient, but and I'm sure it varies where you are on the ship. But I've been really impressed that normally even when we stay deck 9 forward, before, like it's taken until 2:30, 3 o'clock sometimes to get our luggage to the room. And there's been a couple of times where it's taken after sail away before we've seen a piece or two of our luggage. It seems like they're moving much more efficiently now. And I'm hoping that that's just because they changed the luggage tags, the operation improved. So that's pretty impressive. And there, I want to say, it wasn't just our luggage. There was like line of luggage for deck 9 that was being delivered as we were walking to our room. So I thought that was really, really great to see. Sam, rather than go day by day, maybe we should break this up a little bit into kind of like, dining, shore excursion shows, that kind of stuff. I want to start with shore excursions because I think that was a big difference for us this time on the Treasure. So, spoiler alert, we already mentioned we had booked Parasailing Castaway. That did not happen. So, axe that off the list. We had 2 port stops on this cruise, Tortola and St. Thomas. I keep wanting to say St. John, St. Thomas. We did have a shore excursion booked to Megan's Bay Beach on St. Thomas. We decided to cancel it because, again, the weather was kind of iffy that day. Now, it turned out to be fantastic. It would have made a great beach day. The other reason we canceled it is because Sam got a really bad sunburn on the catamaran ride back from our Tortola excursion. We were sitting in the shade and it was breezy. Or at least we thought we were sitting in the shade. And then I got a sunburn on the back of my neck, but Sam had a really bad sunburn on her back. And so we decided maybe a beach day wasn't the best idea. So we did cancel our St. Thomas excursion. We've done that many, many times for the Disney excursion to Megan's Bay. So I don't think I'd have much new to report. There were 4 ships in port that day. So definitely would have been a busy beach day for us. We did try something different though in Tortola. So when we did the maiden voyage, we did a private excursion to Jost Van Dyke. We enjoyed Jost Van Dyke so much, we decided we want to go back, but we want to try the Disney version of the excursion. So this was a group excursion.
It's called Family Beach Escape to Jost Van Dyke.
And I don't remember if you remember what it cost. I feel like it was like maybe around 150 a person, maybe 180 a person. Feels like a normal catamaran excursion. Sam's going to look that up while I'm talking.
If I can find it.
So a couple things about the excursion. So one, there was a morning and I think like a mid-morning departure time. We took the morning departure time.
Which was early, which was meeting at 7:45 a.m. in Marvel.
Yeah, it was an early day for us, for sure. Got off the ship. Thankfully, so our private excursion, we had to walk a little bit to get to a different dock to meet the boat. On this excursion, the dock, the boat basically pulls up to like a dock that's right adjacent to or kitty corner to where the treasure docks. So we just walked up the pier, hung a right, and there was the catamaran. I would say there was probably about 30 people on the excursion, if I had to guess. Maybe 40, but
I would say 40.
Yeah, 40 people on the excursion. We didn't take a head count, but 40 people. Boat was full. People having to sit on the front of the boat, people sitting on the top of the boat with the captain, people sitting in the back of the boat. We got on, they gave us a bottle of water. They circulated, I think, they didn't have anything else to drink. It was a bottle of water on the way there. It was about an hour in the catamaran. This was a powered catamaran, not a sailing catamaran, a powered catamaran from where we were to Jost Van Dyke. The other thing is when we got to Jost Van Dyke, there are two sides of the Jost Van Dyke beach. There are White's Beach, I think it's called, or White Beach. And there's a rock outcropping that separates the two. The side we went to last time with the Soggy Dollar is kind of the more popular side. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of catamarans, sailing catamarans docked over there. And you kind of pull up and jump off and swim to the beach and get your painkillers at the Soggy Dollar or lunch at the bar next door. This time we pulled up on the other side of the beach where there's really one bar. It was called
Ivan's Stress-Free Bar. And by the way, it was $179 per person. That's the adult price, which we paid the adult price for all three of us because Disney's kid price is only up from age 3 to 9.
Yep.
And so Nathan's an adult price. So $179 times 3.
Yeah. So we pulled up to this other beach. Now the catamaran, unlike the private excursion, our catamaran pulled right up onto the sand, essentially put a staircase down. You had to walk in to like near waist high water, but then you just walked up the beach and got there. First thing I noticed when we pulled up to the beach is I was looking at the beach and I was going, it does not look like there's enough chairs out there for all of us. And sure enough,
either Adirondack chairs or loungers, like there were both. And then there were some chairs at some tables.
And some benches, but the benches were like
lunch, picnic benches. Yeah.
Yeah. So first thing I noticed was there weren't enough chairs. The umbrellas were like wooden low umbrella, like they were permanent fixtures. They weren't like
and they were only near a couple of the lounge chairs. There was only maybe like 3 or 4 of them.
Sure enough, before we even got off the ship, like all of the lounge chairs were gone, and like everyone was taking one chair per person in their party, which Sam and I always say is like, if you're a party of 4 and 2 of them are 10-year-old kids, where do you think they're spending their time? Not the lounge chair. They're all going to be down at the beach in the water.
Right.
Probably one adult is going to be down on the beach at the water a lot of the time. And so I get a little frustrated when people take one lounge chair per person.
Right. When a family of 4 takes 4 lounge chairs, is like, you don't need 4 lounge chairs probably.
Especially when you can spot that there's not going to be enough for everyone. So fine. We got off. There happened to be a couple of Adirondack chairs still open. No umbrellas, no shade, but we grabbed those. Just lathered our Edwardian-like skin from what's the Twilight movies up in sunscreen. Did really, I'll say this, we did really well with the sunscreen during the day when we were at the beach. Not getting any sunburns there, but we just grabbed 2 Adirondack chairs for the 3 of us. Sam and I actually did legitimately sit in the Adirondack chairs a good portion of the day, and then we would get up and go down the water with Nathan for a bit, cool off, and come back. So first thing I noticed, not enough lounge chairs at all. Second thing I noticed was this bar felt much more run down than the bars on the other side of the beach, and
it was the only thing there, or
there was
open.
There was a restaurant down further on the beach, and there were some chairs, and there was like a swing.
But it didn't look open.
But I saw a couple people wander down there. Like, I don't know the status of that, but it was far away from the group, and we had. Well, I'll get to that in a second, but there was something else there. But I agree with Sam. It did not look very open. They at one point came by and like dumped out some sand toys for the kids out of a trash can that they had that held the sand toys, and there was like a Corona bottle, a beer koozie, and some dirty napkins in there. And like the dude who dumped it out didn't even take the time to like clean that stuff up. So it was like clear that someone had thought, oh, that is a trash can, and threw some trash away in there when it was really the bin that they were using to store these sand toys, and they just dumped it. I was like, that's not cool. The other thing is, so when we were on the boat, they gave us a card, which we thought was for our lunch because they gave us one for each person. And then they put wristbands on us and didn't really explain what the wristbands were for. I thought it was just to designate that you were on the tour. So when you came back, you could get off. It turns out the card was for a free drink for each person in the party. and the wristband was for lunch. So we didn't know that. And when we ordered our drink, when we got to the beach, the server didn't ask us if we had a card. And so we ordered a couple of, alcoholic adult drinks and drank those. And they were lovely. I mean, they were good.
They're fine.
But because she didn't ask us for the card, we paid for them. And so then later in the day, when we figured out what the card was for, we were like, well, we're not having a daiquiri right now. So we ended up using the cards on sodas, which were obviously less expensive, and water. So like, it was a little frustrating that they would know that we had these cards, and they would know we hadn't ordered a drink yet because it was one server for the entire beach.
And we had just we ordered our drinks early on in the day too. Yeah. So it wasn't we've been there a long time.
That felt a little scammy to me. I mean, not scammy, but just it doesn't sit right.
Just taking advantage.
Yeah, taking advantage. Then when lunch rolled around, so lunch
that's how we found out about the tickets. Was that when lunch rolled around and they took our bands.
When lunch rolled around, we got in line to get our lunch, and we had to take off our wristband and put it in a bowl. Fine, but it was like a buffet, like a crew served buffet, basically. So you walk down the line, tell what you want, they put stuff on your plate, and then you got one plate of food. That's it. I'm not quibbling with that. I did not need to go back for seconds. They would have probably given me more of anything if I really wanted it, and I had plenty of food. But what I noticed is, if you weren't in the first half of the day, much like the lounge chairs, or the first half of that line for lunch, much like the lounge chairs, so they ran out of stuff and they weren't restocking it. And so, first few people got huge scoops of mac and cheese, and everyone after that started to get these little tiny scoops because they realized they were going to run out of it. Or they had some kind of slider. I don't remember what it was.
It was a meatball slider.
A meatball slider, I think, for the kids. And they were completely out of those, and there were still 20 people in line. And so anyway, I did not think the food was actually okay.
I thought it was mediocre. It wasn't gross, but I thought it was mediocre.
Yeah, fair. I thought that there was a spicy chicken that you didn't get that both Nathan and I really enjoyed, but it was okay. I'll just say that it was okay. But it's sort of if I'm paying for the excursion, make another plate of sliders,
right.
Don't let people run out of something they want. And it's also, I think when you're paying for an excursion, it shouldn't be unlimited, but I also think people ought to be able to go back and get a little something extra if there was something more they wanted something of that they tried. But
for $180, it was overpriced for what we got.
Yeah, I feel like we were paying mostly for the gas to get us there than anything else.
Well, and the best part of this trip was the catamaran, and then of course the beach was beautiful. The water was lovely, right? So that part was good. It was just the communication and the food, I would say, were lacking. It did start pouring in the middle of the day, or in the middle of our beach excursion. That's obviously out of the excursion's control. It was for a short amount of time, so there were some drizzles on and off too. But other than that, it was a nice day. But would I book that excursion again? No. Now, I do know there were other people who went on a Disney excursion to Jost Van Dyke that was different than ours. That was a boat ride and then a taxi cab from the other side of Jost Van Dyke Island. And that was a situation where if you could not climb through the water to get to the beach, you could take that excursion instead. So if there were more mobility challenges, you would have booked that excursion. But also, I think our excursion booked up first. So I'm not sure. I think I would probably maybe try that excursion because that went to the other part of Jost Van Dyke Beach where Soggy Dollar is. But I wouldn't book this excursion again.
Yeah. I also say if you book the afternoon excursion, you get even less time at the beach than we did.
It's an hour shorter.
That was the other thing. P.S. We showed up at the beach at about 9:30, 9-ish. They served lunch at 10:30.
Yeah, it was a little ridiculous.
Lunch was out at 10:30, and they really wanted people to get through that line and eat lunch at 10:30.
Yeah.
And I was I'm not hungry. It's 10:30 in the morning. So I found that to be a little awkward too. And I think we were supposed to be there until 12:30 or 1, but the boat showed up at noon, and it's everyone out because there's no place for the new people to come unless we leave.
Right.
So they got a little less time at the excursion. I feel like we got shortchanged a bit on the time.
Yeah, maybe by 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so overall would not recommend that excursion. I hope Disney finds kind of a better excursion to provide for Jost Van Dyke, because Jost Van Dyke is fabulous beach, and I can't recommend enough that private excursion that we did through
Chill Out Charters.
Although they book up, we tried to book them again this time around, and they were booked up months in advance. So
and we've heard good things about Aristocat charters from our friends Nathan and Alicia.
Yeah. So anyway, enough about that. That was our excursions for the trip. Sam, let's talk shows.
Okay. Can I start with the Adventure Tea with Royalty? So that is the replacement for Olaf's Picnic and the Royal Tea on the other ships. This is it costs money. You can only book it if you have a child ages 3 to 12 who is in your room or in your party that is going to be going to it. The child costs, I think, about 200 something, maybe $250. I can't remember the exact price. And the adult price is $80 a person. The child price includes a bunch of gifts to take with them and they're different depending upon which ship and which one you're doing. So here it was like a sling bag, a autograph and picture book, pair of binoculars, a Pascal shoulder plush, a pen, and kind of a cape. And then there was this sort of, we'll call it like a keychain, but it was like supposed to look like a compass. So I think those were all of the gifts for the kids. There's no gifts for the adults. It's oddly enough, it doesn't include tea. Like there's no tea served.
No tea at a Royal Tea.
Yeah. So they're like fruit drinks basically. So fruity drinks, and then you do get like a tea tower, meaning of like sweets and tea sandwiches. And so it is similar to a tea in that sense, but there's not scones and clotted cream and jam. It is really just petit fours and all these kinds of desserts. Too many sweets, in my opinion. And there is a show involved. The show is sort of led by the Coriander and Sage characters. And then you do get visits from 3 different princesses, and there's sort of a storytelling that goes along with it. It was very cute. There is some singing by Sage and Coriander. You get to see Belle, Jasmine, and Rapunzel. Rapunzel actually came with Flynn Rider. I thought it was really fun. It's very overpriced, so it's a one and done type scenario. I was lucky enough to get to go with our friends Ashley and her daughter Catherine. So I went basically instead of her husband Daniel going. So that shout out to Daniel for letting me go. And of course, then I paid my price to my friends, and that was a better way to do it than taking Nathan. I would say Nathan would have been bored out of his mind and he would not have appreciated the gifts. But Catherine really enjoyed. She's 10 years old. She really enjoys the princesses. She really enjoyed the gifts. She really enjoyed the show that accompanied it. So it was perfect for her and her friend that was with us as well. But, I'm not sure that this is for every kid. This is definitely more for the princess lover in your family. So, again, one and done, I would say for me, but I'm glad I got to do it. I also got to see the color spin deck party, dance party, whatever you want to call it. I had not seen this before, even though it has been on a couple of sailings that we've done before. It's basically like a 90s music deck show with the characters, but it's more of like a dance party than anything else. I did actually really enjoy this because the 90s like kid and teen in me just like loved the music. You did get to see Max and Goofy. They danced to Stand Out from the Goofy movie, and then each of the Fab Five characters basically had their own song and opportunity to dance. It's a fun deck party. There's no fireworks, and it's certainly not as good as like the Pirate Parlay deck party, but I thought it was a lot of fun. And definitely worth going to if you have a 90s child inside you like I do. Then we got to talk about stage shows. This was Treasure Cast number 2 that we got to see on board. And they were fabulous. Honestly, I went to all 3 shows. I know Brian went to Tale of Moana, so I'm going to get your opinion on that in a second. But I went to Seize the Adventure and Beauty and the Beast, and of course, Tale of Moana. I have to say, it's really hard for me to go back on my word about Moana being the best, because this cast for Beauty and the Beast and the woman who played Belle, who, as I mentioned, also did Indiana Jones Choose Wisely with Coriander, she was phenomenal. So, I mean, and everything, just like all of the transitions in Beauty and the Beast, everything went like perfectly, which, it's a very technical show. And so occasionally they can have technical issues, but it was just phenomenal and definitely made me tear up multiple times. So I can't say enough about this. All 3 shows on this ship are phenomenal. Really enjoyed them. Thought Belle was phenomenal. Thought Mrs. Potts, who's also Grandma Tala, she was phenomenal. Moana was excellent. Was she as good as the opening Moana? I gotta say no, but she was phenomenal. And if I hadn't seen the opening Moana, I would have thought, oh wow, what a phenomenally talented Moana they chose. So it's only because we had the benefit of seeing the first Moana. But I would say Maui. I think I might have liked this Maui a little bit better than the opening Maui. But all in all, phenomenal cast. Treasure Cast 2 is on the whole as good as Treasure Cast 1. Brian, what did you think about Moana this time around?
I mean, it's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. The staging is great. I think the play is, the performance is great. I mean, I still hold a couple of criticisms about the show, and most of it is, I think the new song that they put in the show is not great, and they could have done something a little different with that time. I think they could have brought in some more of the beloved characters from the movie. I mean, there's a way to do a Hey Hey puppet. I mean, there has to be a way to do a Hey Hey puppet. And I think if they had taken the time out for the new song and maybe done something with the Kakamora, which people really like, I think that could have been fun. And my biggest criticism of it overall is just the movie hinges so much on, I think, Maui and how he's portrayed. And, the show is just, the portrayal, you can't match that in the show. I don't want a guy out there in a costume, like a weird looking costume trying to play Maui. You can't get The Rock to be on a stage show on the ship or anyone like him, because they have to play multiple different characters. So you can't have some like hulking, weightlifter guy just on the ship for one show. But for me, it's just also some of the delivery, right? Like, I think that Maui has a very unique delivery and attitude in the Moana movies that I just haven't seen any of the stage performers be able to replicate. That like big ego, like owning the room kind of thing. It feels like this show is much more about Moana, whereas I think they could have retitled Moana Maui, the movie, and it would still make sense, right?
Sure.
So anyway, I think everything is great. It just doesn't hold up to the movie for me, which is still my favorite. But it's it's a good production overall. So yeah, one thing I forgot to mention before we move on, to go back to day one for a second, I just want to say, Josh Wilson, I apologize, because I now fully agree with you. I think they're phoning it in on the intros on the Treasure. Like when we got on the Treasure for the clapping, they just had 4 cast members, like on either, like there's 2 on one side, 2 on the other, and they're like the Flock family. Yay.
You're right. You're right about that. They didn't
totally phoning it in. It is not like what we experienced when we board a Magic or Dream class ship. Like, So Josh, I gotta agree with you, man. I think it's like on these Wish class ships, it's just not set up for it, and they just don't do it well. So, but
I gotta correct Josh on something else, which is that he said that there isn't a place in the app to put the names of people you want to give like cast compliments to when you do the survey at the end of the cruise. That's not correct. It's not intuitive as to where to find it exactly, but there is a place, and they do limit the number of words you can put, but you don't have to do it by paper. You can do it in the app. I just wanted to correct that.
Speaking of casts, I want to talk about food.
Yeah.
So let's talk about dining for a second. And I'll just maybe give my real quick thought, which is on this cruise, I don't think the standout was the food. I think the standout was the service that we had across both our main dining serving team, which I want to talk about for a second, but also just we had 2 fabulous Palo servers on board. We did a Palo dinner with Boris, who we love. We understand Boris will be heading to the Adventure, potentially. Good luck, Boris, on that journey. And then we of course had our fan favorite Luca, who is he's just phenomenal.
He's hilarious,
and he's just a great server, very attentive. We had him for brunch. Sam mentioned earlier, Christina pulled a little pixie dust and got us the private room for a Palo brunch, which enabled us to bring some more of our friends into.
Right. It was 10 of us.
10 of us for brunch. And if you have not experienced the private dining room on the Wish or the Treasure for Palo, it is simply stunning. And I highly recommend finding a group of 10 people and trying to book that room. You have to request it. Unless you're sailing concierge, you have to request it once you get on board. If your group is big enough, they will try to honor that request. You
can actually request it ahead of time, but you have to call in and you have to have everybody's like reservation numbers and names and birth dates.
But you'll be behind the line for concierge gets first dibs at that.
Yes. So, and also if there's any kind of like Disney executives or some, special VIPs on board, they'll get,
But on a 7-night sailing, you have a much better shot at it, especially for like a dinner. So anyways, fabulous room. but I want to go back to main dining for a second. So in terms of the food, I think Coco is for me probably it's tough. Like this ship is so fraught with first night and second night menu challenges where it's like one menu is good and the other menu is meh or not good.
Yeah.
So for Coco, for me, night 1 is probably a 6 out of 10, and night 2, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 this time.
Oh, really? I would rate it higher.
Let me finish my review. I think the appetizers continue to impress, and I wish they would just move some of the appetizers into like a main entree style portion. Although, frankly, the enchiladas are already an entree style portion. All they need to do is put some like Spanish rice and refried beans on the plate, and you have an entree. I ordered the chicken mole this time, which I can't remember if I had that last time, but it was good, except that it was chicken breast and it was second seating and it was just dry. The chicken was just overcooked and dry. And so like the mole sauce was great, but the chicken texture and it was just not good. So I would say that was a challenge. I think the second night Coco menu is generally better than the first night menu, but still I still think they could do so much better with this opportunity around Coco.
Well, and I had the pork carnitas. This is the second time I've had the pork carnitas, and they were better this time. And they actually came with the tortillas, which were missing the last time. So I do think that our servers did, though, make a huge difference. So shout out to Jeremy and Andrea. They were both fantastic. In fact, apparently Jeremy is like featured in some like a couple of really big YouTubers, both Kyle and JoJo, who are both big YouTubers. On their videos. And so apparently Jeremy, even though this only his like 4th contract, has been getting tons of requests and he's leaving soon.
Yeah. P.S. It sounds like it's his last He is a very good server. And I will say he's a little intense.
Yeah. Super intense. Like he's really trying to connect with you and like,
but really good recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Very attentive to the kids, very attentive to the adults. We had no glass was empty that needed to be empty. There were no challenges with getting food on time.
Yeah.
If you wanted something more, it was there, lickety split.
Kids got their food really fast.
Really excellent service.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it sounds like this Jeremy is deciding to leave the cruising lifestyle to go start a business of his own, still kind of cruise adjacent potentially, but won't be serving in main dining.
I gotta say, I thought the menu for Coco Night 2 was just, still super strong and perhaps better than it was for me on the last time around, just because the pork carnitas were better. But
I'll tell you what's strong on that menu was the margarita drink that I got, that Dan got. And then
Daniel,
I was like, what did you get? And Daniel, sorry. What did you get? I was like, well, I got to try one of those. So there's a special alcoholic drink on the menu for Coco. I think it's a margarita of some sort, but I think it's one of the first drinks. Anyway, fantastic. Highly recommend. I usually do not order an alcoholic beverage in main dining. Interestingly enough, I don't know that they did this on the Maiden. They did not bring around a slip for us to sign if we ordered drinks. They seem to have stopped doing that, and they just charge you for the drink plus the 18% gratuity, which kind of appreciate because I always hate waiting around at the end of dinner for them to finally bring the slips around. So, yeah.
I gotta say, Marvel Night. So Marvel Night. Night 1 menu is okay. I like the udon on that menu.
Mystic pasta is the sleeper hit. Jeremy even said,
with the scallops, right?
Although Jeremy said every one of my selections was just really great, but Jeremy actually said that like that is like the sleeper hit on the menu
on Marvel Night 1.
It's a great kind of like slightly creamy pasta with scallops, and it is just delicious.
Yeah, but Marvel Night 2 is actually where Marvel shines, in my opinion. I actually think there's 2 really fantastic mains on the Marvel Night 2 menu. One of them is the salmon that comes with like soba noodles. And the other one is a shrimp dish in like a red sauce that comes with these like black linguine type noodles. Anyway, I actually ordered the shrimp dish when we were at 1923 the night before because I didn't like any, like honestly, that second 1923 menu is just terrible in my opinion. So I ordered a dish off Marvel, and Jeremy was nice enough to be able to get that for me. But I would say like those 2 Marvel dishes, that those 2 mains, the shrimp and the salmon, are phenomenal. So super good. Of course, 1923 Night 1 didn't disappoint, but 1923 Night 2, just that menu is just, I just don't think there's anything that good on there. You had, I think, the venison.
It was okay. I would not get it again. I mean, Jeremy recommended it, and I tried it.
I think it's the best thing on that menu.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, this is Marvel, right?
No, 1923.
Oh, 1923 second night menu is still like I wanted to say that was our first time experiencing the 1923 second night menu because
your first time. I did on the preview cruise, but it's a terrible menu.
Yeah, because on the maiden voyage, we looked at the menu and are like, nothing on there sounds good. And we just went to Periscope and had wings and tots. So I would say I would not order that venison again. Frankly, it's still my top candidate for just a sort of casual night in Periscope pub with some beer and some chicken wings.
I think the only reason we went to it on this cruise is because we really just had such a good dining team, and we missed Pirate Night to go to Apollo dinner. And so on our maiden voyage, we did not have a great dining team. And so we didn't really care that much about missing a night with them.
Next time we go on the Treasure for a 7-night, I may actually force us to go to Pirate Night just to try that menu again, and then skip the second night of 1923 for a Apollo dinner. Because I keep hearing people say, well, Pirate Night's now kind of my favorite menu. And so I want to go give it one more shot. I want to give it another fair shake. So
it's going to be a while until we get back on the Treasure, unfortunately. But I agree with you. I think that would be the way to do it. And sort of, we'll have to request a specific dining rotation to make sure that our Apollo night falls.
We might give it a shot on one of our back-to-backs on the Destiny, depending on what the menu rotations look like too.
I'm not sure what the menu. I'm not sure if they're going to do the night 2 menus on. I'm not sure what they're going to do on the Destiny with the menus. That's going to.
Well, they can't do night 2 menus because they'll do
They'll probably do night 1 menus.
Well, it's a 4-night cruise. So it'll be 3 night 1 menus and a Pirate Night.
Oh, so, yeah, you're probably
and we're doing it back to back, so we can also just choose on the second half of the cruise, make sure we do the Thanksgiving menu, and then we could do other stuff on the other nights because we'll already have
we won't have a Pirate Night menu on the second cruise because we'll have a Thanksgiving menu. Yeah.
So anyway, I thought overall dining remains, high quality food for the most part. Like I didn't have any challenges other than the chicken breast being slightly overcooked, which happens.
Yeah. We got to talk about Apollo. The Apollo food was on point. Prima Notte was on point as usual.
Yeah, but
the only negative was the guy didn't shut up in Apollo and Prima Notte.
Well, no. Okay. So I don't think we need to dive into the Apollo experience. We've talked about that a ton on the show. People know we're a fan. I don't think there was anything significantly changed in Apollo. On Prima Notte, I'll say it had nothing to do with the guy. The whole point of that, the whole point of Prima Notte is that you're there to learn. Now we have heard from a few people, I wish the dude would just scale it back a little bit so we could just enjoy it. Now we were sitting at a 4-top with our friends, the Nortons, and we were just having a grand old time with the wine and the food. We weren't listening to the guy. I think we got a few dirty looks from people. So sorry out there if you were sailing and we were the ones interrupting your pal. We weren't being that loud, but we were more there for the company, the food and the drink than we were the explanations of the wines and the dinner.
True.
So anyway, overall food was great. Sam, as we wind down here, just a couple of other observations I wanted to make quickly. One was, I think Haunted Mansion Parlor continues to impress in terms of its show and its theming. That's really still great. I think the drinks still continue to disappoint overall. And I wish they would revamp that drink menu a bit. The Skipper Society is still just a great spot on the ship. Periscope Pub is fabulous. We were in there finally for the Masters was on, and it was full of people watching the Masters. And it, still lived up to its sports bar roots.
And a good place to play Lorcana. So I think the bar spaces on board overall were still really good. Some really good character interactions on this ship and some really great magic shots. I know we mentioned that on the Maiden. I think there were even more different picture backgrounds and magic shots available. I feel like Disney's sort of ramping that up across the fleet. But the Treasure has it in spades. The only problem is that the lines are particularly long especially for those magic shots, but even just for the special backgrounds. Get there early on time. And then the one that is the most crowded is the one between the 2 dinners. So that one that's at 7:15. So if you want to get those pictures, you have a better shot at going to the 5:15 or the 9:31 or 9:15. I can't remember the exact time. But the 7:15 one, because it's both seatings of dinner in between, that seems to be the most crowded one. But all of them, honestly, are pretty oversubscribed. So you're going to wait. We did Mickey Churro Waffles are still happening on Castaway Day. So that hasn't changed. The Scat Cat, we didn't spend as much time on this sailing in Scat Cat, but still I think is
I have a new favorite drink on board from Scat Cat. So the grape jam is great, but the Francais on board is fabulous. It's a little trend toward the sweeter side of things and reminds me a lot of the Paris 75 in Skyline on the Dream class ships. But I will probably order that drink over the grape jam going forward. It was just really, really great drink. I had maybe one too many of those on one of the nights of the trip, but it was great overall. The only other thing that I wanted to say was that the rainforest room continues to be my favorite on these ships. I love the outdoor space. It felt a little undersubscribed this cruise, so I didn't have any problems getting in and out of the rainforest room and having a comfortable place to sit either indoors or outdoors. Next time I'm on a wish class with a rainforest room, I'm going to get the pass, and I really want to try the showers out again. The past few times I've been, I've really just used the seating area almost like a lounge, and I haven't done like some of the showers and the cold rooms and all that sort of stuff. So I want to try those one more time because I think they are a little different than some of the other ships. And then I wanted to comment on the adult pool at Cove Cafe. Cove Cafe was actually pretty busy in the mornings, but could still find places to sit. It's a nice, I think it was a nice retreat. Because this was a spring break cruise and there were so many families on board, I felt like the adult pool area was actually undersubscribed most of the time, or at least we had no problem finding seating back there, either next to the bar or on chairs off to the sides. There was always felt like something available. So I did not feel like it was like, just oversubscribed as it has been on some of the sailings. So, if you're on one of those sailings and you've got a kid who's fairly independent like ours is, you would wake up in the morning, go to Edge, we'd get himself lunch, he'd go back to Edge, and then we'd see him at dinner for most of the time. The adult pool space was actually kind of nice. We also rode the Aqua Mouse and did the Curse of the Golden Egg one more time. I think that's still a great, great attraction at sea, and at least on the Treasure, everything seems to be working all the time, which was a struggle for the Wish. So that was great. So overall, I think great. Before we just wrap things.
We did win 2 medals at trivia, I got to say. We did win this time Brain Teasers trivia again. And then myself with the Krauses won Disney Cruise Line trivia.
So before we wrap things up here, I did want to say we recorded some audio on board with some of our friends who were sailing with us, including getting some kiddos' perspectives on the Treasure. And so we wanted to put that in here so you could hear kind of some different experiences on board. So we're going to swap over to that for a second and talk with the Nortons and their friends about their cruise. Are you listening to our show because you want to make the most out of your next vacation? Great news, the fabulous team over at My Path Unwinding Travel can help guide you so you don't miss a thing. Their team of professional travel advisors are caring, knowledgeable, and experienced. It's why we use them to book our own travel. My Path Unwinding Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, which means they are recognized by Disney for their expertise and service. They have sailed on all the Disney ships, including in concierge, visited the theme parks, adventured with Disney, relaxed at Aulani, and so much more. Whether it's a Disney cruise, a theme park vacation, or Adventures by Disney, or if you are looking to expand beyond the mouse, My Path Unwinding Travel will elevate your next vacation planning experience. Even if you have already booked, reach out for a complimentary consultation to make your vacation even more magical. Ready to talk to the experts? Head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. Thanks, My Path Unwinding, for sponsoring today's show. Now back to the episode. All right, so in the sailing, we've been sailing with some fun friends of ours, and we wanted to take a few minutes here in the middle of the Skipper Society to get their thoughts on the cruise. Since you hear from us all the time, it's always fun to get new voices on the show. So with us today, we have our friend Ashley, who's been on the show before, Catherine, her daughter, Daniel, Ashley's husband, Kathan, Raina, and Kristen. And of course, Sam is here, although
I'm here.
She's drinking her caramel teeny, so we'll see how long she lasts. All right. So we're going to do 3 questions with our friends. The first question we're going to start off with is one favorite thing on board the ship, one highlight for you. And so as I pass the mic around, also just reintroduce yourself so folks know the voices. All right. So I'm hand it off to you, Ashley.
Thanks, Brian. So I have last night was my favorite memory of the whole sailing because it started in the Rose Bar with Sam, the bartender, making lots of espresso martinis for us. After that, we then decided to do karaoke just before midnight. 3 of us dancing on the stage to Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody. So clearly we are having a lovely cruise.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's pass to Catherine to get a highlight from her.
So my favorite thing was the Who's Behind the Curtain in the Grand Hall because I got to go up on stage.
Yeah. And I watched you win your round. And I think in about 4 questions, you guessed who was behind the curtain. Tell us which character was in fact behind that curtain.
My favorite Fab Five, Pluto.
Yes. Amazing. Awesome. All right, Daniel, you're next.
Daniel, I'm Ashley's husband. You know her. I'm the husband. There's a lot of stuff on this ship I like. But if I'm going to pick a favorite, it's Haunted Mansion Parlor. It's so well done, and I just kept coming back to it because there's a whole routine that happens, and so you can sit and have a drink and hang out with friends and watch the room change over time. It was a lot of fun.
And you liked one of the sodas there, I know, because you ordered it twice. What was the soda that you liked?
Well, it's the grape soda, but they have for $20 they sell a Hatbox Ghost Sipper. So that's my reason for getting it, which is going to go. That Hatbox Ghost Sipper is going to go in my office when I get home.
Love it.
Yeah.
I feel like so much of the purchase in Haunted Mansion Parlor is for the glassware and not the beverage in it.
Yeah.
All right, Keithan, you're up next. Let's get a highlight from you.
Cool. I'm Keithan. So I think I have 2 highlights. One is the family level highlight, and then the other is like the non-family level. So the secret pool is actually pretty cool. It's all the way in the front, and even though the first day a lot of people found it, after that when we went, there was not a lot of people there, which means kind of easy, relaxing, keep an eye on our kids without really freaking out, and so that was really cool to me. And it's on the 14th deck, and 12. No, you got to go to 12 and then walk up to 13.
Yeah, it's
and so
the Chippendale
It's
pool.
hard to Chippendale pool.
Yeah.
And then from the non-kid level piece of it, I think Hook's Barbary was really cool. Just listening to the guy who's so knowledgeable about all the different bourbons and scotches and all that. And he's looking down at me like, you don't really want to buy this stuff because you're not a connoisseur. And I think I said I'm not a connoisseur. But he's still very pleasant and had everything lined up. And I think that was really cool.
All right, let's go to Raina for a highlight.
Okay, my highlight was probably exploring the ship because we found like the secret pool and stuff, and it was just really fun, especially with friends. We could just like run around and stuff, and then get ice cream, and then play hide and seek or something. So yeah.
Nice. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen. I think my highlight has certainly been the shows. So we haven't seen Moana yet. That's tonight.
You're in for a treat.
But Beauty and the Beast last night was just it was a showstopper. I mean, the performers are just so top notch, and it's just, you feel like you're sitting in front of Broadway. It was amazing.
Nice. All right. So we're going to restart things with Kristen. And I think the next question we wanted to ask was favorite restaurant. And I'll expand that slightly and see if you had a favorite like appetizer or entree or anything from that restaurant that you've had. Now, for everyone listening, we have not had night 2 of Coco yet, which, as you'll know, Sam and I both think is the superior menu at Coco. But so we're dealing with, everyone's had pirate menu and 2 nights of rotation except for the second night of Coco. So, Kristen, do you have a favorite restaurant thus far? Palo's also an acceptable answer.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that hands down, it's Palo. It was that private room. Thank you, was absolutely amazing. Not only were the views breathtaking, the services spectacular, but just the food. I think the only drawback of Palo is that I could barely walk when I walked out of there, and I didn't want to eat for the next day because it was so much food. But I would say Palo is a absolute do not miss that. Besides that, it'd be the churro waffles. I know that's not an actual restaurant, but don't miss the churro waffles at the end of the ship.
This morning was Castaway Days. We had Mickey churro waffles in Marceling Market, and yeah, it was a line. There was a line for this. All right, Raina, do you have a favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant is probably Coco because on the first night they did all like the dancing and stuff, and it was just really cool because they were like performing right in front of you.
So you really like the stage show then?
Yeah.
Yeah? Nice. Nice.
You're in for a treat tonight. You're going to love it.
My favorite restaurant was Palo. The one of you 2 recommended it, but the tomato soup was just out of this world, which is how do you say that about tomato soup? But it really was. But then I'm with Raina. Coco's show was pretty fun on the first night. It was a great way to start the ship off. And so it's a mixed bag between both food at Palo, experience at Coco.
Yeah, the tomato soup of Palo, it's like bright. It's like fresh, bright. It's really good. Yeah, if you have not had that out there, you should definitely try it. Daniel.
I feel like you guys have stolen my answers. I agree. Like, so the first day when we got here, we sat down for Coco for like the welcome on board lunch, and I got to walk around and like just take pictures of the different areas of the restaurant because it's so well themed. I love the experience in Coco, but Palo is hard to beat. We had so I am jealous of the people who eat Palo every night. It's ridiculous. But we had Palo dinner. And I got the Wagyu beef, but it was from Idaho. It was not from Japan. And it was the Snake River Wagyu. It's phenomenal. So
I really like 1923 because looking at all the fun drawings is really cool to see what they were thinking before it actually came to the movie.
And I also have a Palo related favorite restaurant, but we did the Prima Notte tasting on the very first night. And it's just these little perfect bites, this mushroom thing, this gnocchi thing, and wine pairings. It was a really neat, great way to kick off the ship. And sorry, one more, Brian. I finally tried the chicken tenders on the pool deck.
Life-changing
Chicken tenders.
they were very good.
Yeah. I felt bad at Prima Notte because I felt like our table, it was just the four of us, Sam and Danielle and Ashley, and we were having a grand old time. And everyone else is like, I feel like they were looking at us like, shut up so we can hear what the guy's saying.
Yeah, we definitely were not listening to whatever he was saying about the wine and the food. We were just talking and enjoying it.
Yeah. It was a great experience. All right. We always like to, keep it real, keep it balanced. And so I'm going to start off with Ashley with one opportunity you think Disney Cruise Line has with this ship that, maybe has not fulfilled.
Oh, the ship is perfection. Oh, I take that back. Because we're staring
It's perfect, but not really.
Lots of high-end shops on one side. And I feel like we could sell a lot more Mickey merch if we took over some of the fancier jewelry shops. And then my other thing, and I don't know if this is Disney's problem, but our excursion in Tortola was wildly different timing expectations than what was in the app. And so that really threw us off being back for a tasting and for a special kids club moment. So if they could somehow be more transparent in the return time, would be helpful.
See, I wish the shops you were staring at were another bar venue.
Yes.
That's what I wish they were. Because I think that there's it feels like there's always just enough bar space. There's always one really hot bar. And like Scat
Cat, we couldn't get in last
Scat Cat was standing room only. Yeah, I think one more bar.
Another piano bar in particular.
Yeah.
Because the piano bar on the Wish class ship, Scat Cat and Nightingales are just quite small.
But fantastic. They need to be bigger.
Yeah. All right, Catherine, you're next. Room for improvement.
In a lot of the shops, things are really expensive. Like one of these, we were in one shop and the pen
was Disney.
But the pen was $20 for one singular pen. And also, they don't have any of the iconic princesses like Cinderella, Snow White, or Aurora. And I think those are a need. So, yeah.
Would you do you like the Wish better than the Treasure because of the princesses?
Yes.
So that just goes to show you this ship was meant to be a little different than the Wish, not have the princess feel to it, but the Wish still has a place. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, she told me today she liked the Wish better than the Treasure.
Yeah. Listen, we knew that coming in that Catherine had her perfect ship is the Wish, no question, because she's all about the princesses. And so we knew she would enjoy this ship. But that, there are some people for whom the Wish is always going to be home. And Catherine is one of those people.
All right, Daniel.
Okay. So mine is not necessarily it's not a criticism, but it's a comparison against the other ships. I'm one of these weird type 2 fun people where I'm going to go work out every day. I'm going to go for a run in Tortola and run as high as I can up the cliffs. The fitness center here is very good. They've got a lot of good equipment. But the thing that they're missing versus the other ships, the Fantasy, the Dream, Wonder, the Magic, is they don't have a shower for the gym side. So if you're paying for the rainforest room or whatever on the spa side, you have a locker and a shower. The fitness center here is just there is a unisex bathroom with a singular thing. So there are no lockers. So show up, work out, leave.
Would they not let you back to use the shower, the men's
I don't
locker
know. I
room?
didn't. I was
Yeah.
afraid to walk over there.
Yeah. So pro tip, this is great.
yeah.
though. Pro tip is you always can use the spa locker room and showers. You just need
Good
to
enough.
go and tell
All right.
them, hey,
All
I'm going. I'm
And-
just going to use them.
And I was gonna say this is the first time I actually tried the shower in the men's locker room, and it had a rain head that was life changing.
Oh yeah,
so
the
yeah,
ones
it
on
was
the other
like,
ships
amazing.
are great.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't go in this one. The other ones on the other ship where I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
I thought you were going to criticize the running track because there really is. No
I don't like the running
track.
tracks. Yeah, no, I knew from the wish. I was like, I'm just gonna have to run on the treadmill because
I
that's what
saw
you do.
someone the other day running.
Yeah,
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
good
yeah.
for you.
Yeah, good.
for
Hey,
you.
I was gonna enjoy stairs and dead ends.
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Gathan.
All right, so I've got one for the ship and one off ship. So I think the treasure improved on the rainforest spa, except two things. One is there's people that can go on the next deck and kind of watch you, which is a little
We
weird.
did that.
Yeah, Danielle and Ashley shouted down to me from the rainforest, from the upper deck. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we went on the fantasy before, and you could see on outside the windows on fantasy, which you can't do on this ship. Minor things because there's more space on the rainforest spa this time around. And then I'd say like the Beef Island Tortola adventure was not great. It was really rough waters. There's not a lot of room. The guides were confusing, and the road there was maybe a little rougher than we expected. So I'd maybe say reconsider that one. But that's my feedback.
I wish they would pass, like, and I know why they don't. It's the spa and it's wellness, but I was like, I wish they'd have a drink server roll through the rainforest room here. Everyone, so yeah, just have just something.
Yeah, I agree.
I wish that they had like more princesses, like Mulan or like Elsa, I guess, or like Ariel. I don't know. And then
Thank you.
like Dad said, the waves were really rough at Beef Island. And we got like chewy. Yeah.
So we've got 2 votes, more princesses.
So
Kristen,
this is Kristen again. So I would say my room for improvement would be for people that have any type of food allergy. I think it'd be nice if they had some type of like special order window. So you could get things quicker because when you're ordering anything with allergies, it just takes a lot longer on the quick service side. So it'd be nice if there was something specialized where they were prepared for that a little bit better.
We've been sailing with the Krause family on this trip as well, and hopefully we'll get some thoughts from them here later this evening. But Alan actually had a really good idea. I think it was Alan who was like, you should have like a DoorDash for the ship where you could like pre-order food, like allergy food, and you just go into a queue and then they would tell you your food is ready and you could go pick it up.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I think an app-based version or frankly a window I think is a great idea, especially on the pool deck or in Marceline or Cabanas.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that would be really great because otherwise you just have to flag down one of the managers and order from them. And then of course you're going to wait for it regardless. But yeah.
I got 2 rapid fire questions for the groups. These are rapid fire. Brian's rapid fire, so no judgment, unlike Sam. What's your favorite ship that you sailed on with Disney at this point, and where are you headed next? Like, did you get the placeholder? Are you looking to book something? So yes, we'll start with Ashley.
This has been a fantastic week with so many friends on the Treasure. So I love the Treasure, but my heart will always be with the Wonder because those are the unique itineraries and our Alaska sailing. So the Wonder, still at top of my list. We have not sailed on the Fantasy yet, which is everybody's favorite ship. And we are doing that out of Southampton this August. And we're going to 2 ports in Spain. So maybe my answer will change after the Fantasy.
My favorite is the Wish because they have all the princesses that I like, and they have the slide into Kids Club, which I think is better than a slide in the Kids Club. And then, yeah, we're going to do the Fantasy in August with my grandma.
I'm Ashley's husband.
I'm not. I've been on 2 ships. I'd say Treasure is my favorite. And I was going to say Alaska, but then I just heard Ashley say Spain. I'm like, wait a minute. It might be Spain because that sounds fantastic. And Chris and I have always talked about going back to Spain.
My favorite boat is probably the Treasure because it has a lot of cool other stuff that the other boats don't have, like secret pools and stuff.
Where do you want to go next?
Yeah, where do you want to go with Disney?
I don't know.
Anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've only been on the Fantasy and the Treasure now, and it's such a toss-up. There are things that I loved about the Fantasy. There are things I love about the ship. I think that the answer is you can't go wrong. I think our next sailing is going to be something a little bit more unique. So not that the Caribbean is bad but I think we're probably going to try something like Alaska or international or something different.
Nice. Well, we want to thank you for taking time. Actually, do you want to say anything, Sam, before I wrap us up here?
I love all the answers. Everyone who answered Treasure is correct. Everyone who answered anything else is wrong.
All right. Well, we want to thank you all for taking time out of your cruise to share your experience with our audience. We super appreciate it. All right. Well, Sam, let's just do one final wrap up here. Scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate your cruise?
Oh, gosh, that's so hard.
I feel like Baymax right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your cruise?
I would give this cruise, I'm going to give it a 7.5. It wasn't as good as like the Maiden because some of the, performances and sort of not having the Aladdin Tales from the Lamp. So there was a couple things that were not sort of smooth. But the dining was fabulous. Our dining staff was fabulous. The shows were fabulous. The company was fabulous. So yeah, I got to give it a 7.5. Overall, fantastic sailing, but very crowded. Spring break sailings are not always my favorite.
Yeah, I'd say I'd give this cruise probably similar. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Part of it was I think I started I had a scratchy throat for most of the week we were on the cruise, and I thought it was like something other than what it turned into when we got home. So that is what it is.
And now I've got it.
Yeah, now Sam has it. I think we've been. I'm going to say that I think we've been spoiled with maiden voyages on these ships. And here's why. A lot of people complained about the Wish and, her challenges on her maiden. The Treasure had far fewer. But what stands out to me as I reflect back on sailing on those ships on their maiden voyages versus sailing later is the energy around a maiden voyage, the anticipation, excitement, everyone trying to try everything that's new. Everything is new, right? And then when you go back, it's like, I've been here before and it's still new-ish to me, but, and I'm still discovering some new things. But like the energy level overall just kind of like, I feel like comes down a bit. And I think especially on spring break cruises, it's even more challenging just because there's also this palpable energy in the air of like just a little hint of stress of like, all the parents trying to like keep up with all the kids. There was definitely some negativity in our cruise group at one point about, oh, these kids are so rude on board the ship. And I'll say we experienced some rude kids on the ship, but overall I'm like, it is what it is. They're kids. Yeah. We've all been kids. We've all been rude kids, right? None of us were perfect angels. And so,
although a lot of magnets being stolen, that was pretty sad.
Yeah.
And fish extender gifts being stolen. That was sad.
That's becoming more prevalent, which is unfortunate. I think that, stuff is getting taken out of fish extenders and off people's doors, which is a little frustrating. But anyway, the spring break vibe that's on these ships is just different than I think some other times when you're on board. And, even like the summertime vibe, even when kids are out of school, it just feels a little bit more like relaxed than the spring break vibe. So anyway, I think we've been spoiled with these maiden voyages, which are just like high energy, high excitement, a lot of anticipation, a lot of people really looking to love the thing together. And so going back on now, it's sort of like that's deflated, and I think just impacted the energy that I had overall kind of across the cruise. So.
Plus holiday cruises are just phenomenal with the extra stuff, but with the
little touches.
Yeah, those extra little touches and the beautiful garlands and the tree and all that. Like there's something really special about those holiday cruises. So it's hard for a spring break cruise to like live up to a holiday cruise, I think, or like a New Year's cruise, right? Yeah. So like that's the hard part is like I'm comparing to our cruises that we took in December. And that's where the rub is. It's not, but I had a fabulous time on this cruise. Had just a ton of fun with Alan and Rachel and Ashley and Daniel. And so particularly, enjoyed spending time with those folks on board.
Yeah. So with that, we will wrap it up here. Hope you enjoyed, our feedback on the Disney Treasure. I definitely think she's still top ship in the fleet for me in terms of overall theming and experience on board. And the Wonder comes in a close second, but for very, very different reasons. Very excited for the Destiny. We're headed into what I'm going to call the season of the Destiny here very, very soon. We're November is only now it's 6 months away because we're headed into May. So 6 months out is when things are really going to start to ramp up. You'll have seen the Destiny event that happened while we were at sea. And if you tune into our live show on Monday, you'll get to see us. Maybe I'm going to be wearing my Destiny hat, I think, just to, whatever. It's a flex and I love it. The Disney folks sent us some swag from the Destiny because we couldn't make the event because we were on the Treasure. So pretty exciting stuff there. Check out our Instagram for Sam's unboxing video of that. But yeah, really excited to see the Destiny and what she's going to be doing. I think especially excited to get back to Lookout Key, frankly, on the Destiny. But anyway, overall, Treasure still a great ship. Can't wait to get back on board her. Can't wait to get back on board sort of any ship at this point. But thanks everyone out there for listening, and we will see you next time. Well, thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCL Duo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read it at the top of one of our main episodes. So please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email them at dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to dclduo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCL Duo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLDuo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLDuo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.